This is the Fifth Estate, a conversation between young African scholars from the Foothold School of Government and Professor Mutahi Ngunyi. This Sunday, opinion is divided at the Foothold School of Government, and it's about the meeting between Raila Odinga and Mzee Moi. One set of scholars is persuaded that Raila has no plan. After his mock swearing in, he had no idea what to do next, and he could not explain his new job as a mock president without looking like a cartoon. His only saving grace was arrest. If Uhuru had arrested him and charged him with treason, Raila would have received a new lease of life. But Uhuru refused to arrest him, and because of this, Raila got confused. He had no plan beyond the swearing in. He had to change tact. This is how the handshake was invented. But just like the swearing in, Raila had no plan after the handshake. This is why he has now moved to hit and miss activities like meeting Mzee Moi. In fact, we should expect him to meet Mzee Kibaki as well. This man has no plan, and this is why he's doing the hit and miss.
According to the second set of scholars, this was no ordinary meeting between Mzee Moi and Raila. What we saw was the first fellowship of political dynasties. Yet in this fellowship, we only identified Raila and Gideon Moi. But behind them were the young sons of politicians created by Mzee Moi after their fathers died. We had the son of Isaac Salat, a former Moi minister, the son of Sharif Nasir, a former Moi minister, the son of Nicodemus Haniri, a former Moi minister, and the son of a former paramount chief associated with Mzee Moi. All these boys were created from nothing by Mzee Moi. They were created to inherit their fathers, and this is because Mzee Moi was an expert at weaving dynasties. If this record is accurate, we must ask a fundamental question. Was this fellowship of dynasties brought together to discuss the Raila handshake? Zero. They were brought together to stop William Ruto, a chicken seller whose father had no name, from becoming president. Period. The meeting was a subtle war congress, and it declared war between the dynasties and the hustler nation.
But is Uhuru part of this convention of dynasties? And is Raila doing a handshake with Uhuru, Mzee Moi, and maybe Mzee Kibaki to create a new coalition of dynasties? And the answer is zero. For starters, if the war between the dynasties and the hustler nation has been declared, Uhuru is on the side of the hustler nation. He is with Ruto, and there are no gray areas. 2. Between Ruto and Raila, who is the bigger sinner to the dynasties? Who hurt Mzee Moi, the Kenyattas, and Mzee Kibaki the most? Who is the sinner? In our view, Raila is the sinner. And a meeting between Raila and Mzee Moi can only be described as having tea with a traitor. If Raila had not abandoned Mzee Moi and Uhuru Kenyatta in 2002, Gideon would have become the leader of the Kalenjin nation. But when Raila betrayed Mzee Moi and Uhuru in 2002, he created a vacuum in the Kalenjin nation. And because Ruto is from the hustler nation, he moved in swiftly and disinherited Gideon Moi. Mzee Moi cannot blame this kind of genius. He can only blame Raila for betrayal.
You cannot blame Raila for trying. The reason why Raila tries is because the Odingas have never arrived. They began their journey to the presidency 100 years ago. And although we call them a dynasty, the Odingas are a dynasty that never arrived. We call them a dynasty because they are still trying. In this sense, they are like the hustler nation. And if trying many handshakes makes Raila look like he has no plan, that is okay. It is alright to have no plan so long as you are trying. Hits and miss, including a forced meeting with Mzee Moi, is the way of the hustler. We must not judge Raila using these standards. But this is how we must judge Raila. If Mama Ida Odinga is next to him, then Raila is on the right course. If she is replaced by lawyers, then Raila is lost. The return of Mama Ida is an assurance that the handshake is genuine.
On Mama Ida, I agree. When she's next to Babaman, the country is happier than when Raila is colonized by a bunch of lawyers. But now we must give caution to William Ruto, and we are going to use a story. It is about a madman and a Christian. They both lived in a place where the bathroom was outside the house. One day, the Christian decided to take a bath. He went to the bathroom, took off his clothes, and hung them on the door facing outside. As he was whistling and enjoying his hot bath, the village madman passed by, and he took the Christian's clothes, including the towel. Furious about this, the Christian rushed out of the bathroom and started chasing the madman. When the villagers saw this, they asked, "We know our madman all right, but who is that other madman chasing him?" They could not tell the difference. Our message to Ruto, therefore, is this. One of these days, a man from the dynasties will come and he will take your clothes while you're having a bath. Your natural instinct will be to chase him. But our counsel is this. Restrain yourself.
If the dynasties met Mzee Moi, they wanted to stop Ruto. And they wanted to stop Ruto because Ruto's dad had known him. If this is true, then we must serve notice. A war waged on William Ruto by the dynasties is a war waged on the hustler nation. A war against a chicken seller who became deputy president is a war against the Kenyan dream. A war to stop a chicken seller from becoming president because his father had known him is a war against the nation. Put differently, if the dynasties rise up against Ruto, the hustler nation will rise up against the dynasties. If Raila betrayed Mzee Moi, betrayed Mzee Kibaki, and betrayed NASA, he cannot form a coalition of dynasties. Raila is just using the dynasties the way he used NASA. But there's one more thing. The dynasties cannot give the presidency to Gideon Moi. If they try, the country will reject him. This is why the dynasties must ignore the mischief of Raila and follow the leadership of Uhuru Kenyatta. They must settle on Ruto or face the wrath of the hustler nation.
2022 will mark 30 years of multi-party politics in Kenya. And for the first time in 30 years, we will have an election without a Kikuyu candidate. Ruto saw this reality 10 years ago, but Raila did not. And instead of aggressing the Kikuyus, Ruto embraced them. He knew in 2022 there will not be a factor to oppose. But Raila was stuck to his old ways. He became a hero because he was anti-Kikuyu. But if the Kikuyus are not there for him to oppose in 2022, what will Raila be opposing? If we have no Kikuyu candidate to rally other tribes against in 2022, what happens? What will Raila oppose about William Ruto? The fact that Ruto has a father without a name, and is that why Raila went to look for the dynasties this week? In my view, Raila has no plan. And without an object of aggression, Raila is completely lost. He becomes a prisoner of the past. That is why he's looking for approval from Nyayo. He still believes that Moi has some magic tricks in a bag someplace somewhere. But in the meantime, Ruto has read the signs of the times, and instead of relying on dynasties, he has banked with the poor. He will be made president by the hustler nation.
And now, our final thought. It is a story from the Holy Bible, addressed to the dynasties that met Mzee Moi. Once upon a time, there was a rich man and a beggar named Lazarus. The beggar was covered with sores and fought with dogs to eat what fell from the rich man's table. Then one day the beggar died, and the angels carried him to the bosom of Abraham. Shortly after, the rich man died. He went straight to hell. While in hell, he cried out to Father Abraham to send Lazarus with a drop of water to cool his burning tongue. But Father Abraham said no. Then the rich man asked if Father Abraham could send Lazarus to his 5 rich brothers on earth to warn them about hell. He said his brothers would listen to a dead man because they would be scared. But Father Abraham replied, if they cannot listen to Moses and the prophets, they will not be convinced even if someone rises from the dead. And this is the story of the rich dynasties and Lazarus called Ruto. They will only appreciate Ruto when they are in hell in 2022.